Story 1. The Truck Stop That Remembered. Carl Henderson pulled into the Flying J at mile marker 42 on Interstate 35 near Ardmore, Oklahoma at 11:37 p.m., March 19, 2023. He'd stopped at this exact location hundreds of times in his 12-year career, knew the layout by heart, knew which pump had the fastest flow rate, knew the cashier who worked nights and always had fresh coffee ready. Standard stop. Routine refuel. Except when Carl walked into the convenience store, the cashier looked at him with an expression of absolute terror. "You," she whispered, backing away from the counter. "You died here. 3 weeks ago, I watched you die." Carl's stomach dropped. "I've never died anywhere. I'm standing right here. March 1st, you came in at midnight, bought coffee and a sandwich, walked back to your truck. I watched through the window. You clutched your chest, collapsed between pumps 7 and 8. Heart attack. Paramedics said you were dead before you hit the ground." Her hands were shaking. "I gave a statement to the police. I identified your body." "That's impossible. I was in California 3 weeks ago delivering to Sacramento. Check my logs." She pulled out her phone, hands trembling, and showed him a photograph. Crime scene photo. A body on the ground between pumps, face visible. The face was his, exactly his. Same graying beard, same scar on his left cheek from a childhood accident. Same company jacket with the tear in the right shoulder. "That's not me," Carl said, but his voice cracked. Because it was him. Perfect match, down to details only he should know, like the way his wedding ring had worn a groove into his finger, visible in the photo. "Your name was on the license. Carl Henderson, age 47, Sacramento address. Your wife came to identify the body. I met her. She was devastated. My wife died 6 years ago. Cancer." The cashier's face went gray. "Your wife was here 3 weeks ago, alive. Crying over your body. I comforted her." Carl checked his own phone, pulled up photos, showed her his wife's funeral from 2017, showed her his logbooks from March 1st. He'd been in Fresno, not Oklahoma. Showed her his medical records, no heart problems, perfect cardiovascular health. "Then who did I watch die?" the cashier whispered. They reviewed the truck stop's security footage. The cashier pulled it up on the back office computer, spooling to March 1st at midnight. The footage showed a man entering the store. Carl's exact appearance, Carl's exact mannerisms, even Carl's slight limp from an old knee injury. The man bought coffee and a sandwich, walked to pump 8, collapsed, died. The footage was real, time-stamped, verified. Carl had died here 3 weeks ago, witnessed by staff and cameras, identified by a wife who'd been dead for 6 years. "I don't understand," Carl said. "How can I be dead and standing here?" The cashier was crying now. "This has happened before. Other drivers. They stop here and we recognize them. They died here months ago, years ago, but they don't remember. They're alive again, driving the same routes, and they always come back to this truck stop. Always to the place they died." Carl felt cold spreading through his chest. "How many others?" 17 that I know of. Maybe more before I started working here. They die in accidents, heart attacks, robberies. We file reports, notify families. Then weeks or months later, the same drivers pull in, alive, confused, with no memory of dying. And they always insist they were somewhere else when we say they died. What happens to them after they learn they died here?" The cashier's face crumpled. "They leave, drive away, and then they die again. Same place, same way, same date. The loop closes. One driver, Eddie Martinez, I watched him die in June 2021, stabbed by a lot lizard who robbed him. 3 months later, he pulled in, alive, no memory of it. I told him what happened. He left terrified. 2 weeks later, June 14th, 2021, he pulled in again. Same date as his original death. I tried to warn him, tried to get him to leave, but the woman was already in the parking lot. She approached him, and I watched him die again, exactly the same way, same wounds, same timeline. Like the universe demanded he die on that date in that way. Carl's hands were numb. You're saying I'm going to die here again on March 1st in a loop? I don't know. Maybe. Every other driver has. They live their lives normally for weeks or months, then the death date approaches and they're pulled back here. It's like the truck stop remembered they died and reality has to reconcile the contradiction. Either you really died or you're alive. It can't be both. So the truck stop forces the issue, brings you back to re-die, to make the death permanent. Carl stumbled outside, his mind fracturing. Checked his phone, March 19th. His death date was March 1st. 19 days ago, if the cashier was right. He'd already survived past it. Maybe the loop was broken, maybe he was free. But that night, sleeping in his truck in the parking lot, Carl had a dream. He was walking into the Flying J at midnight, buying coffee and a sandwich, walking back to Pump 8, feeling his chest constrict, falling, dying. The dream was too vivid, too detailed, too much like memory rather than imagination. He woke at 3 a.m., gasping, checked his chest, no pain, checked his pulse, normal. But the dream felt real in a way dreams shouldn't. It felt like remembering something that had happened, even though he'd been in California on March 1st. Carl left the Flying J at dawn, drove to his next delivery in Kansas City. Normal route, normal job. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with his existence. He checked his credit card statements. No charges in Oklahoma on March 1st. Checked his phone's location history. Showed him in Fresno on that date. All evidence said he'd been in California. But the Flying J's cameras showed him dying in Oklahoma. Over the next week, Carl researched the other drivers the cashier had mentioned. Found obituaries, accident reports, news stories. 17 men, all died at or near the Flying J at mile marker 42 between 2015 and 2023. And Carl found something else. Forum posts, social media updates, evidence that several of those dead men had continued posting online weeks or months after their reported deaths. They'd been alive, after dying, just like him. And then, on dates matching their original deaths, their social media went silent. Permanently. Their final post geotagged at or near mile marker 42. The loop pulled them back. Reality corrected itself. They died on schedule as the truck stop remembered. Carl tried avoiding I-35, took different routes, bypassed Oklahoma entirely. But on February 27, 2024, 4 days before his death date's anniversary, his dispatch assigned him a load. Oklahoma City to Dallas, route that would take him directly past mile marker 42. I can't take that route, Carl told his dispatcher. It's the only efficient path. Take it or lose the contract. Carl took it. He had no choice. Bills, mortgage, existence all depended on working. But as he approached Ardmore on February 29th, he felt it, an irresistible pull, like magnetic attraction. The Flying J at mile marker 42 was drawing him in. He tried driving past. His hands turned the wheel against his will, guiding the truck to the exit. Tried keeping his foot on the accelerator, but his leg lifted, applied brake. His body was being controlled, puppeted by something that insisted he stop at the Flying J. He parked at Pump 8, the same pump. It was 11:57 p.m., 3 minutes before midnight, 3 minutes before his death time. The cashier saw him through the window. She ran outside, screaming, "Don't go in, don't buy anything, stay in your truck." But Carl's body was moving without permission. He walked inside, bought coffee and a sandwich. The same items. His mouth spoke words he wasn't choosing. "Keep the change. Have a good night." He walked toward pump 8. His chest began to tighten. Not imagination. Real pain. Real constriction. His heart was stopping. Following the script the truck stop remembered. Carl fought it. Tried to run, to reach his truck, to drive away before the loop completed. But his legs wouldn't obey. He collapsed between pumps 7 and 8, exactly where the security footage showed him falling 364 days ago. The pain was immense. His heart stuttered, stopped, started, stopped. He was dying. The original death catching up, claiming him on schedule. But Carl's last conscious thought was clarity. He hadn't died here originally. He'd died somewhere else. California, maybe, or another state entirely. And his death had been so sudden, so unexpected that his consciousness hadn't accepted it. He'd continued existing. Ghost-like, unaware he was dead. Driving routes, making deliveries, living a half-life. Until reality noticed the discrepancy. Until the universe found him and said, "You're supposed to be dead." And reality constructed a false memory, a false death location, a place where his death could be witnessed and documented. The Flying J at mile marker 42 was a correction point, a place where the deceased were forced to acknowledge their deaths, to finish dying properly. Carl's heart stopped. Final. Permanent. He felt himself lifting from his body, consciousness separating from flesh. From this perspective, he could see the truth. Dozens of translucent figures in the parking lot. Ghost truckers, all dead, all still driving their routes, all unaware they were corpses piloting phantom trucks. And he could see the Flying J itself, not as a building, but as something alive. An entity that fed on death recognition, on the moment when ghosts realized they were ghosts. It collected that final moment of awareness, that terror of understanding, and used it as sustenance. The truck stop was a predator. It reached out into the highway network, found drivers who died but hadn't accepted it, and lured them back, made them re-die, fed on their final moments. Carl's consciousness dimmed, faded. He joined the others, phantom trucker driving phantom routes, waiting for the next time the Flying J called him back to die again. Because the death loop never ended. It repeated annually, monthly, weekly. The ghosts returned on schedule, died on schedule, and forgot they'd already done this. Eternal repetition, eternal feeding for the truck stop that remembered every death and refused to let the dead rest. The cashier found Carl's body at 12:03 a.m., March 1st, 2024. Exactly 1 year after his first death. The paramedics said massive heart attack, dead before hitting the ground. His wife was contacted, a woman he'd never met who insisted she'd identified his body last year, who mourned him for the second time with genuine tears. The funeral was held March 7th. The grave was real. The death was documented. But on March 19, 2024, at 11:37 p.m., Carl Henderson pulled into the Flying J at mile marker 42. Alive, confused, with no memory of dying. And the cashier watched him enter, her face pale with recognition, knowing she'd watch him die again in 12 days. Knowing the loop would continue, knowing the truck stop would feed. Because some places don't just witness death. They collect it, cultivate it, repeat it. And the Flying J at mile marker 42 has the largest collection in Oklahoma, growing every year, adding drivers who died elsewhere but are remembered here, forced to return and die again and again until the truck stop is satisfied. Which is never. The hunger never ends. The deaths keep looping, and truckers keep pulling in, wondering why the staff look at them with horror, wondering why they're being told they died weeks ago, wondering why they feel so cold despite being alive, until they're not alive anymore, until they die on schedule, until they join the collection of phantom drivers eternally returning to the place that remembered them to death. Story 2. The Shadow Trucker. Denise Calloway first saw him in her mirrors at 2:41 a.m. on Interstate 70 through Kansas. A truck running without headlights, maintaining exact distance behind her, matching her speed perfectly. 72 miles per hour. She slowed to 65. The shadow truck slowed. She accelerated to 80. The shadow matched. She grabbed her CB. Truck running dark behind me at mile marker 328. You need to turn on your lights. You're invisible to other traffic. No response. The shadow truck continued pacing her, headlights off, somehow navigating perfectly despite zero illumination. Denise had been hauling freight for 19 years, knew every CB trick and road game. This wasn't playful. This was predatory. The shadow truck was hunting her. She tried changing lanes. The shadow followed precisely, maintaining that 50-yard distance. She took an exit. The shadow followed. She pulled into a closed gas station, killed her lights, watched her mirrors. The shadow truck pulled in behind her, parked exactly 50 yards back. Its engine was running. Denise could hear the distinctive diesel rumble. But the truck itself was barely visible, not painted black, darker than black, like light refused to reflect off its surface. Denise locked her doors, grabbed her phone, no signal. The gas station was abandoned but should still have tower coverage. Her phone showed full bars but couldn't connect calls. Emergency services failed. Text messages wouldn't send. The shadow truck sat idling, waiting. Denise started her engine, pulled back onto the road. The shadow followed immediately, resuming that 50-yard distance. For the next 3 hours, it paced her across Kansas, through every turn, every lane change, every attempt to lose it. At dawn, the shadow truck began to fade. Not drive away. Fade. As sunlight increased, the truck became more transparent. By 6:15 a.m., with full sunrise, it had vanished completely. Denise was alone on the highway. No vehicle behind her, like the shadow truck had never existed. She reported it to her dispatcher. Probably fatigue, hallucination, they said. Get some rest. But the next night, at 2:41 a.m., the shadow truck returned. Same distance, same behavior. Following her on a completely different route, different state, it found her. Over the next week, the pattern established itself. Every night at 2:41 a.m., the shadow truck appeared in Denise's mirrors. It followed until sunrise, then faded. It never got closer, never made aggressive moves. Just followed, watching. Denise started driving only during daylight, modified her schedule, took only day shifts. It helped for 3 days. On the 4th day, the shadow truck appeared at 2:41 p.m. afternoon, full daylight. It shouldn't have been possible. The truck only existed in darkness. But there it was. Darker than shadows should be in bright sun, ignoring physics, following her. Denise pulled into a way station, hoping DOT officers would see the shadow truck, confirm she wasn't insane. She ran to the scale house. "There's a truck following me, no lights, dangerous driver, right there." She pointed at her mirrors. The DOT officer looked. "I don't see any truck, ma'am." "It's right there, 50 yards behind my trailer." The officer walked outside, looked directly at the location where Denise saw the shadow truck. "There's nothing there. Are you feeling all right?" The shadow truck was visible to Denise but invisible to everyone else. It existed specifically for her. That night, Denise parked at a truck stop and researched. Found forum posts from other drivers describing identical experiences. A truck without lights, following them, appearing at 2:41 a.m., vanishing at sunrise. Always the same distance, always silent except for engine sounds. One driver, username Highway Ghost 73, had been followed for 3 months before posting a final message. "It's getting closer. Started at 50 yards, now it's 30 yards. I think when it reaches me, something bad happens. This is my last post. If anyone finds this, tell my family I love them." Highway Ghost 73 never posted again. Denise found an obituary. Marcus Holloway, truck driver, died in a single vehicle accident 3 days after his final post. His truck had veered off the road for no apparent reason, no mechanical failure, no medical emergency. Like he'd simply stopped controlling the vehicle. Other drivers reported similar fates. The shadow truck followed them for weeks or months, gradually closing the distance. When it finally reached them, when the distance reduced to 0, they died. Always single vehicle accidents, always unexplained. Denise measured the distance in her mirrors, 50 yards initially. After 1 week, 45 yards. The shadow truck was closing in 5 yards per week. Simple math told her she had 9 weeks before it reached her. She tried everything, drove different routes. The shadow found her, changed trucks. The shadow followed the new vehicle, took a week off, stayed home. The shadow appeared in her driveway at 2:41 a.m., idling silently, visible only to her. Her husband looked directly at it and saw nothing. "You need therapy," her husband said. "You're having a breakdown." Maybe. But breakdowns didn't show up in mirrors with perfect consistency. Breakdowns didn't have measurable positions that decreased 5 yards per week. Denise contacted other drivers from the forums, found 3 who were currently being followed. They formed a support group, sharing experiences, measuring distances, trying to find solutions. One driver, Kelly Chen, suggested they meet in person. "Maybe if we're together, we can see each other's shadow trucks. Maybe they become visible when multiple targets are present." They met at a truck stop in Nebraska, 3 drivers all being followed by shadow trucks. At 2:41 a.m., they stood together and looked. Each driver could see only their own shadow truck. Kelly saw hers at 30 yards. Denise saw hers at 40. The third driver, Robert Mills, saw his at 15 yards. 2 weeks, Robert whispered. "I have 2 weeks left." They tried to help him, suggested he stop driving entirely, ground himself permanently. But Robert had bills, family, responsibilities. He couldn't just quit, and besides, the shadow truck had appeared at his house. Distance didn't matter anymore, it would reach him whether he drove or not. Robert died 13 days later. Heart attack while driving, crashed into a median barrier. No prior cardiac issues, no warning signs, just sudden death at the exact moment his shadow truck would have reached 0 yards. Denise and Kelly were terrified. Denise had 6 weeks left, Kelly had 4. They tried researching the origin of shadow trucks, found references in trucker folklore going back decades, stories about drivers who made deals, with whom stories varied, for perfect roads, endless good weather, mechanical immortality for their trucks. The price was always the same. Eventually, the shadow truck comes to collect. "I never made a deal," Denise said. "I never promised anything to anyone." But Kelly remembered something. 10 years ago, I almost died. Jackknifed on black ice, should have gone off a cliff. At the last second, the truck corrected, like someone else took the wheel. I thought it was adrenaline, muscle memory, but what if something else saved me? What if that created a debt? Denise remembered her own incident. 15 years ago, brake failure on a mountain pass. The brakes mysteriously worked just long enough for her to reach a runaway truck ramp. Mechanics found no explanation. The brake lines were severed, there was no hydraulic pressure, the brakes shouldn't have functioned at all. "We were saved by something," Denise said. "And now it's collecting." Kelly had 3 weeks left when she tried running. Flew to Alaska, as far from the continental highway system as possible. The shadow truck appeared in Anchorage at 2:41 a.m., idling in front of her hotel. Distance, 10 yards. Running accelerated the collection. Kelly had 3 weeks, but fleeing compressed it to days. She died 1 week later, massive stroke, age 34, with no risk factors. Denise stopped running, accepted that the shadow truck was inevitable. She drove her routes, watched it creep closer in her mirrors. 40 yards, 35, 30, 25. At 20 yards, she could see details. The truck wasn't just dark, it was made of darkness. Solid shadow given form. The cab had no windows, no visible driver, just a smooth black shape that absorbed light. At 15 yards, she could hear it breathing. Not engine sounds, breathing. The shadow truck was alive somehow, a predator made of darkness and debt, exhaling cold air that fogged Denise's mirrors. At 10 yards, she started seeing inside her own truck. In her peripheral vision, Denise caught glimpses of something in her passenger seat. Something shadow-shaped, watching her. It was already inside, even though the shadow truck was still 10 yards back. At 5 yards, Denise wrote her final logbook entry. To whoever finds this, the shadow truck is real. It collects debts we didn't know we owed. When you survive something impossible, when you're saved by unexplainable luck, you create a debt, and eventually the shadow comes to collect. I have maybe 2 days left. I'm not afraid anymore, just tired. Tell my family I love them, and warn other drivers if your brakes work when they shouldn't, if your truck corrects itself on ice, if you survive the unsurvivable. Be grateful, but know the shadow is watching. And someday, at 2:41 a.m., it will appear in your mirrors, and it will follow you home. Denise Calloway died March 7, 2023. Single vehicle accident, no mechanical failure, no clear cause. Her truck veered into oncoming traffic at exactly 2:41 a.m. Her final dash cam footage showed something impossible. In the last 3 seconds before impact, her truck was surrounded by darkness. Not night, darkness. Like the shadow truck had finally reached 0 yards and consumed everything. The last frame showed Denise's face calm and accepting as the shadow poured through her windows and pulled her into itself. The footage was sealed by authorities. Officially, equipment malfunctioned during the crash. But other drivers know. They shared Denise's final warning on private forums. They watched their mirrors at 2:41 a.m., and some of them have started seeing it, the shadow truck, maintaining perfect distance, following them home. Because the shadow never stops collecting. Every driver who survives the impossible creates a debt, and eventually the shadow comes to collect its due, patiently, inevitably. Following at precisely measured distances until the debt comes due and the darkness takes what it's owed. The shadow truck is real. It's following someone right now, and if you've ever survived something you shouldn't have, if you've ever been saved by unexplainable luck, you should check your mirrors at 2:41 a.m., because debts always get collected, and the shadow is always patient, and it's closing the distance 5 yards at a time, every week, every day, until it finally reaches you and pulls you into the darkness where all debts are paid in full. Story 3. The Cargo That Screamed. Tommy Vickers picked up the sealed trailer in El Paso on June 4, 2022. Standard manifest: refrigerated goods, perishable, delivered to Boston by June 8. The paperwork was clean, the seals unbroken, the reefer unit running at perfect 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Normal cross-country haul, good pay, straightforward route. The screaming started somewhere in New Mexico. At first, Tommy thought it was the reefer unit. Refrigeration compressors sometimes made high-pitched whines when bearings wore out. But this wasn't mechanical. This was vocal. Human vocal cords producing sounds of pure agony. Tommy pulled over at a rest area at 3 a.m., walked around his trailer. The screaming came from inside, multiple voices overlapping, all shrieking in pain and terror. He grabbed his phone to call dispatch, but stopped. The seals were intact. If he broke them without authorization, without witnessed cause, he'd be liable for the cargo value. Could be tens of thousands in damages, could be career-ending. But the screaming was real. People were inside. People were suffering. Tommy grabbed his phone and recorded audio evidence of the screaming, proof that something was wrong, justification for breaking the seals. He recorded 90 seconds of clear, undeniable human screaming coming from inside his trailer. Then it stopped. Absolute silence. The reefer unit hummed normally. No voices, no sounds, nothing. Tommy waited 20 minutes. Silence continued. Maybe he'd hallucinated it. Fatigue, highway hypnosis, exhaustion playing tricks. He checked his video recording. The audio showed only reefer unit sounds, no screaming. The video had captured nothing unusual despite Tommy hearing it clearly. He drove on, unnerved but unconvinced he should break the seals. Maybe auditory hallucination, maybe stress. The screaming returned in Texas. Louder this time, more desperate. Tommy pulled over immediately, called dispatch. "I need authorization to open this trailer. There's something wrong with the cargo." "What's wrong?" "I'm hearing sounds, voices. I think there might be people inside. The manifest says refrigerated produce, vegetables. There are no people. I'm hearing screaming, human screaming." "Open your reefer unit access panel. Check if something's caught in the compressor." Tommy did. The reefer unit was functioning perfectly, nothing caught, no mechanical issues, but he could still hear screaming from inside the trailer, muffled by insulation but unmistakable. "Dispatch. I need to open this trailer now." "Negative. Seals stay intact until delivery. If you open that trailer without authorization, you're liable for full cargo value plus breach of contract. We're talking $200,000 minimum. There are people dying in here. There are vegetables in there. Produce worth 200 grand. If you open it and spoil the climate control, you're financially responsible. Is that what you want?" Tommy sat in his cab, paralyzed. The screaming continued for 17 minutes, then stopped again. He recorded it again. Again, his phone captured only normal sounds. Whatever was screaming existed in a frequency or reality his recording equipment couldn't detect. Or something was directly manipulating his perception, making him hear things that weren't there. He continued driving. The screaming returned every few hours, always at night, always lasting 10 to 20 minutes, always stopping before Tommy could gather evidence. He stopped sleeping, too terrified to rest while the cargo shrieked. By Oklahoma, Tommy was hallucinating from exhaustion. He saw faces in his mirrors. Not other drivers, but faces pressed against the inside of his trailer, visible through solid metal, their mouths open in silent screams. He called dispatch again. "I can't deliver this cargo. Something's wrong. Really wrong. I'm turning around." "You're 30 hours from delivery. You turn around now, we terminate your contract and sue for breach. Drive the route, Tommy. Deliver the cargo. What you're experiencing is fatigue. Rest for 8 hours and resume." Tommy pulled into a truck stop, parked, and tried to sleep. The screaming woke him after 90 minutes. He stumbled outside and found other truckers gathered around his trailer, looking concerned. "Your reefer unit's acting weird," one driver said, "making sounds I've never heard." "You hear screaming?" "Screaming? No, but the compressor's cycling wrong. On, off every few seconds. That's not normal." Tommy checked the reefer unit. Temperature was perfect, cycling was normal, but to other drivers it appeared to be malfunctioning. Whatever was wrong with his cargo was affecting perception differently for different people. He researched the shipper, a company called Vega Cold Storage, found their website, looked professional, called their number. It rang forever. No answer. No voicemail. He searched for reviews, found one forum post from 3 years ago. "Don't haul for Vega. They ship things that aren't food, things that shouldn't be transported. My partner hauled for them once and had a breakdown. Quit trucking entirely. Won't talk about what he saw." Tommy tried to find the forum poster. Account deleted. Trail went cold. The screaming intensified through Arkansas. Now Tommy could hear words, "Help us, please. It's so cold. We're freezing. Let us out. Please let us out." Multiple voices, distinct individuals, all begging. Tommy pulled over, grabbed a crowbar, and approached the trailer. He'd break the seals, deal with the consequences. People were dying. He positioned the crowbar to pry the first seal. The screaming stopped instantly. A new voice spoke, single, calm, male. "If you open this trailer, they'll escape, and you don't want that, Tommy. You really don't want that." "Who are you?" "The cargo. What's left of them anyway? Open the door and we'll thank you personally. We'll thank you to death." Tommy backed away. The voice laughed, wet, gurgling sound that made his skin crawl. "We've been in here for months, Tommy. Frozen at 38 degrees, kept alive but immobile. Vega specializes in transporting problems. People who need to disappear but can't be killed. Witnesses, informants, people who know too much. We're kept conscious, kept frozen, kept unable to move or escape. This trailer is our prison, and you're our transportation to a facility where we'll stay frozen forever." "That's insane. That's impossible." "Is it? You've heard us. You've seen us in your mirrors. We're real, Tommy. And if you open that door, we'll be free, but we've been frozen for so long we've gone mad. We won't thank you. We'll kill you, slowly. We'll make you feel what we've felt. The cold, the paralysis, the eternal screaming that no one hears." Tommy ran to his cab, locked the doors. His hands shook so badly he could barely key the ignition. He called 911. "I'm transporting kidnapped people. They're being held in my trailer. I need police assistance immediately." "Sir, what's your location?" He gave his coordinates. "I'm at the rest area at mile marker 216 on I-40. Stay there. Officers are en route." Tommy waited. 20 minutes passed. No police arrived. He called 911 again. "Where are the officers?" "Sir, we have no record of your previous call." "I